It has been a hectic few days for law enforcement agencies in India. On the 2nd of October, it was the National Investigating Agency, the NIA, that raided over 60 locations in Andhra Pradesh and in Telangana, including homes of human rights activists and researchers, in connection with allegations about providing financial and logistical support to Maoists. One arrest was reported. Next day, on the 3rd of October, at the crack of dawn, Delhi police, under the orders of the Home Ministry, raided 46 journalists and activists associated with a news outlet, Newsclick. 2 arrests were made in connection with allegations that Newsclick may have received Chinese funding and is doing Chinese propaganda on Indian soil. Despite Newsclick refuting these allegations, the government has been adamant that crores of rupees have flown in from China into India for anti-India activities. Then, on the 3rd of October, it was the turn of outspoken Aam Aadmi Party MP in Rajya Sabha, Sanjay Singh, to be picked up by the Enforcement Directorate. Earlier, he had been suspended from the upper house of Parliament for disrupting proceedings, basically asking too many questions. This time, the allegation from the government was far more serious, that he had a role to play also in the infamous Delhi liquor scam, the same scam for which former Delhi Chief Minister Manish Sisodia has been in jail for a very long time. Interestingly, this arrest comes at a time when the Supreme Court of India has been asking tough questions to the Enforcement Directorate about what real proof does it have against Manish Sisodia while listening to his bail plea. And finally, on the 5th of October, after the NIA, after the Delhi police, after the Enforcement Directorate, it was the turn of the Income Tax Department to swoop down on 40 locations linked to DMK MP Jagat Rakshatan and his relatives. This came amidst a war of words that had been brewing between the BJP and the DMK in Tamil Nadu. Interestingly, all these raids and arrests by the central agencies were conducted in non-BJP states, while anyone associated with the ruling party or its allies were found to be marked safe on Facebook. This wave of raids and arrests have only 2 possible explanations. Either after sleeping for 9.5 years, the government of India has woken up to corruption and is acting at a breakneck speed to close all leaky taps. Of course, there is no corruption or corrupt leader in the ruling dispensation, needless to say. Or perhaps there is increasing nervousness in the ruling establishment that the carefully spun narrative over the last 9.5 years is getting undone. Voices of criticism are growing louder. Allies have started deserting the party, including the very recent and public spat with the AIDMK. Have astute allies started to see the writing on the wall? Are the internal projections of the BJP a lot more worrying than what they care to admit? Is there a game afoot to stay in power using money and a whole lot more muscle in the months to come? Does this really mean that we might see another repeat of the Indira Gandhi's India, where any and every means was used to stay in power? Remember, not just media, even the Supreme Court of India was made subservient to the wishes of then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi and her PMO. The darkest hour of India's apex court. It's public record. Ironically, BJP's predecessor, the Jan Sangh, faced the brutal iron fist of Indira Gandhi, yet today the party is doing many things that are reminiscent of pre-emergency India of the 1970s. Let's take a look. And let's keep this action against political opposition aside for today. This, of course, has been a continuous, relentless process of pulping the opposition so much that it does not even have the ability to stand up as a viable alternative to the supreme leader. Leading, of course, to the famous catchphrase, if not, then who? However, this week's hounding of the press has been seen as a new low for India. Already struggling at the bottom of the press freedom rankings, 161 out of 180, giving Pakistan stiff competition these days. The government scored a self-goal this week when on 3rd of October, in an unprecedented move, at least 400 police officials raided around 30 locations across Delhi, Noida, Gurugram, Mumbai, Ghaziabad at 6 in the morning, questioning 46 people, including journalists, freelancers, writers, and even satirists, all having, by the way, one thing in common. They were presently connected or in the past at one point of time had been associated with Newsclick. Now, this included part-time writers, part-time freelancers, even graphic artists. If true, this conspiracy to bring down India seems is running very deep, and also is being done by freelancers. One would pity a nation that was so weak so as to be singed by freelancers working in a very small digital news outlet. However, after 10 hours of questioning, most of these people were let off, but not before many of their homes had been searched, their electronic devices confiscated. This highly controversial step, despite the Supreme Court having rapped the government for not informing the apex court about what exactly are the guidelines for confiscating electronic devices, and what protections does the citizen of India have against data being planted on those very same devices that have been confiscated to implicate them in the future. Something not totally unheard of, especially for those who have read about the Bhima Koregaon case, or those of us who know about the power of Pegasus and government-deployed spyware. But let's be charitable. Let's trust the government and trust the security agencies. Let's give them the benefit of doubt that they are on the right track. And indeed, Newsclick's editor-in-chief, Prabir Purkayasth, was in touch with businessman Neville Roy Singham and some of the Chinese employees of Neville Roy Singham-owned Shanghai-based company by the name of Starstream. They did exchange mails that planned to show Kashmir and Arunachal Pradesh as not part of India so as to undermine the unity and territorial integrity of India. Now, if this is so, this is a very ill-thought-of plan to destroy or undermine the unity of India, because Newsclick anyways has a very limited viewership. However, this is what the police has claimed in its application in court seeking 15 days of remand for these two accused. But if this is the case, then either the police is spectacularly incompetent or the intention here was something else altogether. Let's see why. Number one, even if money had changed hands, the government did not really need to make this a terror, a UAPA case, a draconian case. The ED would have been enough. However, in terror cases, the government can detain citizens without giving valid proof, without giving enough information. Later on, you can release these citizens also without any explanation. Right now, it seems that a lot of government action is based on an article published in the New York Times that links Newsclick to Chinese money. Now, if this is the case, it is really tragic, because usually any report published in the New York Times or Washington Post or any other foreign media is seen as negative propaganda against India. But this time, it seems that it has been taken as the gospel, as the word of truth. Now, if this really was a serious terror case, point number two, then the police has been investigating Newsclick for months now. Why is there a hesitation to share a basic FIR copy? It's the most basic requirement of a nation that has rule of law. 2 days after his arrest, his lawyers, the editor-in-chief's lawyers, are running around for a formal FIR copy to know exactly what the charges are. This, even as bits of the charges and FIR is being leaked surreptitiously to the media. Point number three, even if the editor-in-chief of Newsclick did some hanky-panky, there is a larger question. Why raid the houses of 46 people, including those who may have just given an article or two to the organization? What was the police trying to get out of them? Financial details from China? Or was this really part of a psyop to silence the media? Because this is something called the chilling effect, where the media is given a loud and clear message. This is what we will do to you. This is what we will do to publications, to reporters who dare to ask too many questions. Point number four. What really stinks in this whole episode, besides the confiscation of devices, raiding the houses of even freelancers, or arrests without giving an FIR, is the kind of questions that these journalists were asked by the police. Do you cover the CAA protest? Did you cover the farmers' protest? Did you visit JNU? Did you write on Delhi riots? Did you write on oxygen shortage? It seems that the police really wasn't bothered about China funding. Rather, what the journalists thought about the government and its policies. What was their political stand? You may not get this news at 9 p.m. on mainstream media, but not the first time that independent question and independent media has been hammered down in this country. The Supreme Court had to come to the defense of Kerala's Media One news channel and journalists like Siddiq Kappan. The charges against them were vague and in the name of national security. National security that has become this bogey using which anyone can be hammered down, no questions asked. Sadly, the same national security does not seem to make us question the government, when China eats into our lands, attacks our posts, kills our soldiers. The same national security does not have any hassles when we break records and import $100 billion plus worth of goods from China. We just ban some apps. The same national security is not humiliated when we are forced to pay for Russian oil with Chinese currency. Press freedom is a sure, short barometer of where the country's democracy is heading. Those who have seen print and television bend and crawl over the last few years in India will not be surprised that now small independent digital media houses are under scrutiny, under attack. After that will be the turn of small independent YouTubers. And at every error, every small or big error would be weaponized against these institutions. Those in the government's good books, of course, will be able to get away with abuse, they'll be able to get away with scams, and even communal poison. The press, remember, had been famously subverted during India's first emergency. Many crawled when asked to bend. Now many others are salivating and licking the boots of the establishment. They are being rewarded with riches. They are being rewarded with access. But even as Indra expelled foreign journalists and arrested hundreds of Indian journalists over 21 months of India's first emergency, such police action that we saw this week, raids on close to 50 people simultaneously in one organization in the national capital, may not even have happened in Indira Gandhi's time. So the message from the government seems to be rather clear. Regardless of funding from China or not, the fact is that there is political funding from China. Political parties have got money from China. PM Care has got money from China. Regardless of all of that, we basically want to come after those who are relentlessly questioning the government, and we will use the sledgehammer against those who can dent the party's chances before 2024. So as censorship increases and the space for questions shrink, we thought that this would be the worst time and the best time to start something new. Some of our friends are calling this new channel an act of stupidity. Maybe they are right. Because in today's world of nationalistic jingoism and playing the civilizational victims, talking about truth, talking about facts, it's stupidity. But then it only takes a few to do the right thing and to keep moving on. So if you would like to have more of the real news and not the 9 p.m. spiel, then do join in, subscribe, share this message far and wide. On our part, we promise to do the best, to inform, to educate, to let you know a little bit more, till we physically can. Good night and good luck.